Hi there. Behind me is the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority's administration building. During the past 50 years, it has been an airline headquarters, a commuter terminal, and an office space. It has a history that we want to remember. Let's take a look.
PSA was San Diego's company, San Diego's airline. And whenever you told anybody you worked at PSA, they'd say, "Oh, do you know so and so? Do you know so and so?" And it still happens. But we were known with airline with a smile.
And its headquarters was in this building located at 3225 North Harbor Drive. PSA constructed the building in 1968 to centralize operations on the airport campus.
The building was and incorporated the corporate offices. It incorporated all our maintenance functions. It had cafeteria. It had an employee credit union, employee store. It had the offices for accounting. It had reservations. It had the computer room for the reservations office. It had a hangar on the back side that held three 727s that could work undercover and was a free span design, which had no post and no door. Because San Diego, we didn't need a door. It was good weather. But the guys would work on the airplanes, and they did everything from small checks to major checks on the airlines. We had an upholstery shop. We had an engine shop. We had avionics, where all the electronics and radios and so forth were taken care of. We had parts, which was all the parts and supplies for the airplanes. So it was a one-stop shop where everything was in one place. Executive staff and everything was on the third floor, and that's where the vice presidents were, and the reservation center, and the computer room.
But the hangar was always kind of exciting to walk through because, I mean, it was massive and there was, of course, during the day it was empty. We used to have a party every year in the hangar, and it was the ticket to get. People would be begging to come to that party. So we'd have a whole circus in the hangar. No windows. It was weird. It had one window in accounting. At least we could see if it was raining or whatever. The executive area with that section that was like protruded out of the building. I'd never seen anything like that before. I know I went on a tour of the building a few years back, and whatever area I was in, I kept seeing flashes of people, and I think that just it's like being home, just a feeling of comfort.
And it was just a very family-oriented, which we were a family-oriented airline.
The spirit within the building and having everybody within the same place, there was such camaraderie that it was like we were all one person.
And it was a great spirit. I mean, catch our smile. I mean, it was just a great company to work for.
Right here in the corner of the building is where the PSA sign hung until the late 1980s when the airline was purchased by US Air. The building didn't change, but according to former PSA employees, the spirit inside the building did.
Watching it come down. It was a very sad day because I'd spent 28 years of my life working for PSA.
And it was very sad. It was very emotional because PSA was definitely a family, a strong family. And we just worked hard, had fun, played, we were young, and that's the way that building felt. When US Air bought us in '86, we became technically about to become a member of the US Air family. And then 2 years later in '88, it actually formalized the merger and PSA disappeared completely. In the building was nothing physically except people leaving. So the building itself stayed just as it was inside. And when it got to the end, and I was the last person in the building for about 6 months, everything was the same. Well, at the time that I sold it to the port, that's when I moved out. I didn't get involved again until I went to work for the Port District in 1997. And Fella, who was the director at that time, who became the CEO later, we came up with using the building for the commuter terminal. We had to install ticket counters, gate rooms, reactivate bathrooms. We tried to reuse the bathrooms that were already in place down there to create, and it only used just that small portion of the bottom floor. And then, of course, the hangar had been torn down. The building into the office complex really occurred when we were told we were separating from the Port District and becoming an airport authority.
You know, I came on board in May of 2005, which was about 2 years and a few months after we made the transition away from the Port District, and we were still very much in transition at that time.
Where we needed to build a facility that would be able to house all the different people we're going to need for running an airport, because a lot of the functions that the Port District provided us, personnel, payroll, procurement, safety, all those ancillaries that you have running a business, we're now going to have to be under our roof. And so we accommodated all that with that building. That's why you see we added windows to the back side of the building to get more light, so that not just the front side of the building had a view of the bay, but now the back side had the view of the runway and Mission Hills, and it also got all that sunlight in. And we tried to limit the number of offices against those windows so that the cubicles and offices in the middle still got the advantage of that. So it wasn't just people in offices. She was very aware that the quality of the workspace was important to the productivity of the employee and the well-being and happiness, just a good place for that employee to be.
In many ways, the old administration building was that home that we created. When you're trying to build culture, team spirit, and esprit de corps, one of the ways that you do that is through a sense of place, a sense of belonging. And I think that what Fella's vision was got us there.
Our airport staff, our airport group family, as very similar to PSA. Again, younger, loved working for the airport. We had many events. I mean, from airplane tosses, paper airplane tosses to you name it, barbecues. We celebrated a lot. We did a lot of things you do like as a family. And so I think that same feeling that we used to have with PSA, even though the business was different, was very much the same. And when we had challenges, everybody jumps in. You know, when the fires were going, we couldn't get people to the airport many years ago in the 80s. When 9/11 hit and we all of a sudden had a closed airport and we had 4 days to get that sucker back up and operating again, to transitioning from the Port District and having to put together an organization in a year and stand it on its own and get FAA approval to do it. We got it that night before we got the approval letter faxed over that we were ready to go, because you can't operate until the FAA signs off, and they're looking at your financial operations, your manuals, everything, the way you do business. It was a horrendous but exceptional experience.
In 2015, more than a decade after the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority was formed, the building went through once again a change from a commuter terminal into an office building.
When the commuter terminal shut down as a terminal, an operating terminal, we got the first floor and what we could do with that and create more sense of place and bringing more people in. And that brought in the IT department and others into the building. You could see it right on Harbor Drive as you're driving by, and you basically could never go to the airport terminal without seeing our building, seeing the mural on the side of the building, which became iconic. And we had parking right there. It was a very useful, utilitarian building, but it was also home. Some of the very specific improvements we did. I mean, we created a gym for people. We created a very nice break room on the second floor when we built it out. We created a very nice set of conference rooms on the second floor when we built it out. We created a boardroom. We created a new emergency operations center, which while none of those things were perfect, they were vast improvements over what we had in the beginning, and we really made the space our own, and it felt like home. It looked very nice. You could never have, I don't think anyone would have been able to tell that that was a former airline headquarters or anything else former. It looked like it was supposed to be our building because we made it that way. Wanted and needed more space a lot, but we didn't want to leave that building. While I'm very sad to see that building go, only because it was my home for so long, what I see behind it as it's being torn down is this beautiful new terminal. Truly, as the wrecking machines are coming in to take down the old building, it's unveiling for the public from Harbor Drive this view of the new terminal.
And that's the brief history of this building that has grown with San Diego. Now this same space will be the location for San Diego International Airport's new Terminal 1. That's it for now. I'm Nicole Hall, and I'll see you around the airport.